Well, hello everyone, and welcome to our second webinar here at Taskforce. I'll just give everyone just a couple of moments. We've got a few more people still logging in, and we'll kick off the webinar in just a moment. Alrighty, let's get right into it. So thank you for joining us. My name's Ashley, here from Taskforce, and today we're doing a little recap on our weekly to-do list. And we're also giving you a few updates on the rental minimum standards. So thank you so much for joining us. This is our second webinar here. There is the ability for you to add questions and everything in the chat to the right of your screen. So please feel free to use that if you have any questions. We've got some questions that have already been sent into us as well from people wanting to see something on this call. So we'll go through those. And if I have an opportunity at the end, we'll go through some of those other questions that are placed here today as well. All right, so as I said, my name is Ashley. I'm one of the Senior Business Relationship Executives here at Taskforce, looking after a number of our customers. So hopefully some of my customers are here. If you are, hello. And to the rest of our customers, hello to you as well, and thank you for joining us. So today, we're going to do a quick recap of the weekly to-do list, which has started to roll out into your inboxes. Got a couple of questions around that, and then we're going to do a little bit of a key update on the rental minimum standards as well. Let's kick off with the weekly to-do list. So how does it work? Every Monday, you should have started now receiving an email of what's due for the week. In that, you can approve and edit jobs. You can also look at rectification quotes, and we can talk about our new notice of entry approvals process, which will come through as well. And you can even use that section to go and look at some job history as well. Now, as a property manager, you'll just be receiving the properties that you manage. So if you're connected via your CRM, or if we've manually uploaded them for you, the properties that your name's attached to, they're the properties that you're going to see in your weekly to-do list. If you're a compliance manager or you're a director level and you need to see your entire office, please let your account manager know, and we'll get that set up for you straight away. So let's have a look at this weekly to-do list. You'll see the email on the left of the screen there, your right, I think. So it will actually start to show you a bit of a weekly update of how many things you have to action. You can see in this example here, there's 4 safety checks that are due, a couple of rectification approvals, and a couple of notice of entries that we've popped in there as well. So all you need to do is click to access your manager dashboard, and that will take you through to our portal and the specific page where you can action all of these items. Now, I just want to bring you to a suggestions option here. If you have any suggestions of how we can improve this, if there's data that you're not seeing once you log in that you'd like to see, or there's some data in there that's irrelevant to you as well, please let us know. Use that button each week and just give us some feedback, because we want to make this work perfectly for you, and we'll continue to evolve it. So once you click through, the first thing you'll see is all of your safety checks that are due. And they'll just be listed here for you. It will only show what's due in the next 3 weeks and anything that's currently overdue. So if you missed something last week or you're away for a couple of weeks, don't stress about that. They'll show up on your next Monday email, and you can jump in here and pop all of the information and let us know what you need. Now, there's a few things that you can do here. If all of the information is correct, so for this particular property, the tenant's correct, and the suggested job type and dates are correct, you can simply just click approve, nice and easy. That will generate the job here with us at Taskforce. We only do the job once you've approved it. And at that point, we'll send off a message to your renter, and they can select from our calendar, our live calendar, a time that suits them, and then we'll follow that up until we go through and do the actual inspection. If there, for some reason, is a reason that you don't need us to do this property anymore, say it's about to be sold or it's a loss management, but you haven't updated it in your CRM yet because you're still closing down a few of the items that are there on that particular property, then you can just decline it from the to-do list. Simply click decline, and it won't show up for you there again. As long as you archive that property within the next 12 months, you also won't get reminders for it next year. Now, if the information has changed or the dates are incorrect, maybe you've had some work done during that time, you've potentially removed gas from the property or something like that, you have the opportunity to edit the job type. You can let us know if it's a one-off change, so it's just for this year, or if it's an ongoing change. Just follow the prompts. It's nice and easy. Let us know what we need to do on that property going forward, and then you can come back onto this page and just approve the job, so we go ahead and do it. Now, let's say you're heading away next week, you're heading off on holidays, you need a little bit more information on this particular property. You've actually got the opportunity now to pop some notes in here. So if you're not going to approve it or decline it today, you can pop some notes in. You'll see those notes when you come back into it again next week. If you have someone else that's looking after your portfolio, that's something that we're going to launch very shortly, where you can actually select another property manager. If you're managing their portfolio for a period, you'll be able to jump in there and see notes that they've put on there as well. So you can leave notes for each other in that space. So that's the safety checks. We've seen a lot of you using that already, and so far the feedback has been absolutely fantastic. If you have any more questions on that, please pop it in the chat and I'll try to get to it in just a moment. Okay, now the second tab that you'll see here is any rectification approvals. So when we do safety checks and there are rectification that needs to be done, we'll provide you with a no obligation quote within about 24 to 48 hours. We'll still continue to send those quotes through to you via email. However, they will also show up on your weekly to-do list if they haven't been actioned by the Monday morning. So in that case, here we've got two that we could do. You can come in here, click on that tab, you'll see the property, the quote description, as well as the amount, and you have the opportunity to approve that quote from here, decline the quote if you're getting someone else to do the work, so you've got your own plumber or electrician working on it, and you can also send the quote directly from here to the owner. So if you're chasing up your owner to see if they're approving the work to go ahead, you can just send it through there again and it will email it directly off to the owner. Again, you still have the ability to add notes in here, so you can keep a little note for yourself for next week as well when you come back in and do it all again. Okay, notice of entry. So this is a little bit new for us here at Taskforce, and we're actually really excited about it. We've started to see our first few go out this week, and so far they're working really, really well. So our process here, once we send off the SMS, so as soon as you approve a job, we send off the SMS and an email to your renter. Your renter, 99% of the time, will respond to that and actually book in with us. But of course, we have those little 1 or 2%ers that take a little bit longer, and we don't want those properties to fall out of compliance. So after 3 weeks of our team sending those notifications out and the reminders every 6 days, our team will actually get flagged that this property hasn't been booked in yet. So our team right here in Burnley at our customer care centre, they'll pick up the phone and they'll call your renters and try and book them in. What we're finding so far is that most of the time when we make that call, we're able to book them in. But if for any reason they're not responsive or they don't get back to us after we've tried once or twice, we'll flick through a notice to you that it's popping up that we need to do a notice of entry for this particular property. That's when you'll see it come up here. So it'll be around the 4 to 5 week mark in the process of us trying to get in touch with them. So if you see it here, know that we've spent quite a bit of time trying to get in touch with your renter, and at this point, they're just not responding to us. There's a couple of things you can do. If you know your renter well, please just give them a quick call. Let them know that we are trying to call them. We have sent them the ability to book directly with us. A lot of the times they're just a little bit wary of potential scam emails, etc., going around, and they might just not be responding to us just purely out of a safety concern. That's absolutely fine. We understand that. But if you have that quick chat with them, a lot of times they'll just book it in. As soon as they've booked it in, it will remove itself from this notice of entry approvals. You don't have to worry about it. However, if you know it's someone that's a little bit more difficult and you're happy for us to provide notice of entry to go in and do that particular property, then all you need to do is click approve. When you click approve, what we'll do is we'll send out some information to your renter to say we're coming to your property on this particular date, and then they have the option to tell us if they would like us to pick the keys up from the office or if they will be home on the day. They can also let us know if they have dogs or etc. that they don't want us to disturb. That's absolutely fine. So far when we've been doing that, it's been working really, really well. And a lot of them have been saying, yep, that's absolutely fine. You can grab the keys. I just haven't responded because I simply don't have the time to be home at this particular period in my life. So that's fine. We'll come and pick the keys up from your office, and then we'll head out and do that particular job so that it's all compliant and it doesn't fall out of compliancy for you. Okay, finally, we have this job tabs here. Now this is an area where you can search for the history on your property and you can find reports and invoices for that particular property. So all you do is just type the address in the address bar. You'll see that it will start to come up. Now I'll give you a little bit of a tip here. If it's a unit number at a street address, don't start typing the unit number in, Because of the way that the CRMs send us all of the data, sometimes it will come through as 1/2, other times it will come through as unit 1 of 2. So it's a little bit hard for us to search that. So just search for number 2, Smith Street, and then you'll see in the drop down, it'll have all of the properties that you have at 2 Smith Street, and you can just select it from there. Once you select that and you hit submit, it will actually just filter it to that particular property, and you'll see the property sitting here. You'll also have a tab there to open the report if a recent report's been done, and you can also view the invoices. So you've never been able to view the invoices before, we've always had to send them to you. Now you can actually get them in our portal. Okay, so that's our weekly to-do list. Now we have had a few questions sent through earlier, so I'm going to go through these just quickly. The first question we had was sent in was the notice of entry. When does that get triggered? So just to relay what I said before, so we'll do 3 weeks of trying to get in touch with your renter before we pick up the phone, and we'll call them. At that point, if we can't get a response, that's when it will trigger the notice of entry. Now, the notice of entry is only triggered manually by our team. So if our team can find another way to get in touch with them, that's absolutely fine, they'll do that. If they can't do that, they'll manually trigger it and put it on your list, and that's when we're asking for you to give us that approval to pick the keys up and go through and do that particular one. Notes. So when, as a PM, you put the notes in, do we take any action on those notes? No, we don't. I will let you know, we can see the notes. So as your account manager, sometimes I'll jump in there and help out and talk to individual PMs, but no, we don't. Our team doesn't action anything on those notes. Those notes are there for you and for your team to be able to action next time that you come in and look at that particular property. What happens if I've approved a property, but I actually should have declined it or I accidentally approved it? Fantastic question. So in this case, all we need you to do is either get in touch with our customer care team or your account manager if you can. But our customer care team, you can call them on 1300 818 138, or you can just send an email through to pm@taskforce.com.au. So as long as you send it through to them, just let you know you've accidentally approved this property, but you actually need to decline it. Let us know what the reason is, and then we'll update that property for you. Now, just note that your renter would have received a notification on that particular property, but as soon as we cancel it, that's absolutely fine. If they've booked it in, we'll cancel that job and remove it from their list. Okay, if you do have any other questions about the to-do list, please put them in the chat on the right-hand side, and I'll get to a couple of those at the end of this session as well. All right, let's now move on to the rental minimum standards. So a few updates that have come through recently. We've now ticked off 2 of these dates that are on the screen. So as of now, your property must meet the standards prior to being advertised for lease. And blind cord safety, that category, the 15th category, is now live. So that's active and it has to be actioned as of the 1st of December. We also have some new categories that have been published, and they're coming into effect in March 2027. So we'll talk about those in just a moment. All right, we've been asked a few questions around a few different areas lately, and one of them is door locks. It keeps coming back up. This was one that caused a lot of grief when it was first launched. There wasn't a lot of information about how to do it, but recently we've actually had a few renters actually put in a question to Consumer Affairs, and it's been brought up around particular properties that may or may not meet the rental minimum standard for door locks. So thankfully, as part of that, the Consumer Affairs team have actually clarified a couple of things. You can see down in the bottom here, they've used some very specific wording. So a deadlock that is defined in the Residential Tenancies Act is a deadlatch with at least 1 cylinder, but it doesn't go into detail on what that is. So that's where we refer to Consumer Affairs Victoria. And they've actually defined it as a type of lock that can automatically lock when you close the door. So we've got a couple of examples of that up on the screen here. So you can see this first example on the left here, it has a push button. So this is the inside of an external door. So it has a key on the outside, and on the inside here, it just has this push button. When the door is open and you push that button, you can still close that door. And once you close that door, it's locked. So in that case, this particular deadlock, that passes. That particular door lock, I should say, that passes the act. So that's what we're looking for when we're going in and doing these checks. There's a second example here on the right. This is actually the door lock that we've got on our house. So this particular one here, The outside is on the left there. So on the outside, it's just unlocked by a key, but on the inside, it can be unlocked both with the latch and then you can double lock it with the key, which means that the latch wouldn't work. Now, this also passes. So this passes because when you lock this latch here, you can still close the door. So if it's open, you pull the latch across, you can actually close the door, and then from the outside, it's locked. So that's an automatic locking mechanism when you close the door. That's what we're looking for when we go through this particular scenario. Now, a few extra bits of information down here. There's a few cases where the deadlock doesn't have to be fitted. The one we get asked about a lot is a screen door, which is outside of a normal front door, for instance. As long as the front door meets the standard, the screen door doesn't have to meet the standard. And a lot of screen doors will meet the standard as well. They'll have a security lock in it, which will work, and that's absolutely fine. But if it doesn't, if it's literally just a fly screen and it opens and closes, that's also fine as long as the main door is the door that actually meets those standards. Now, when we're looking at doors, we're looking at all external doors that allow entry into the property. Sometimes that can be from a garage into a property as well. So that's another door that we will look at. Now, there are some instances where a different type of lock is required by law. Some apartment blocks where they have specific fire ratings, that will also come into effect and our team can look at that. So if you have any questions about really unique situations like that, please reach out to us, send us some examples and our team will help provide a bit of information back for you. Okay, blind cords. Now blind cords have recently been introduced and everybody's talking about that at the moment. So I'm going to try and keep this really, really simple for you. If a blind cord or a curtain, the cord on that curtain forms a loop, then that will generally have to be anchored unless it's up high, so it's over 1.6 meters. So what our team's looking for when they go out there is firstly is an anchor fitted. If an anchor's not fitted or it's broken, it can just be replaced or added. Now when we're fitting that anchor, it has to fit in a way that the loop doesn't pull open more than, I think it's 200 millimeters. So they're going through that particular scenario to make sure that it's actually fitted and anchored correctly. Now, the reason this regulation has come into place is because unfortunately a couple of young kids have actually lost their life in Victoria over the past 12 to 24 months, and we've seen it happen before that as well. And that's something that the regulators are trying to reduce and to potentially stop and stamp out altogether. It's a very sad situation when you see that happen. So when you do a rental minimum standards check with Taskforce now, we will include all of these blind cords and make sure that they're serviced. If you're doing a safety check, you can do it as an add-on as well. So have a chat to our team about that and you can actually book that at the same time as doing your safety check. Or if you're doing a rental minimum standards check, it is now included in that as part of the rental minimum standards. There are a few scenarios where we're unable to actually fix it while we're out there, and we may have to send you some information so that you can get, say, a blind cord or a curtain technician out to do a little bit more work to actually get it to the regulation. Now, a few examples that we've seen of that already are when roller blinds are fitted over a sliding door. If the cord falls down where that sliding door goes, the aluminium sliding door, it's not something that you can actually fit a fixed blind because it would stop the opening of the door. So in that situation, we're actually going to recommend that you get a blind technician out because they can do a couple of things. They might be able to reverse the orientation of the blind to have the cord come down somewhere where it can be fixed. They might be able to fix a longer blind. And there's actually also the potential of putting in an electric motor on that particular blind. They're not as expensive as you might think. They're operated by a remote control. And that way, there's no cord that falls down, so it will then meet the actual standards. All right, let's get into some of the upcoming energy and electrification and efficiency standards. So these are coming in 2027, and a few of them will be phased in over time. But we're actually now looking at how we can start to report on some of these so that you can get ahead of the game so that when we come to 1st of March 2027, which is just over a year away, don't let me scare you on that one. But yeah, just over a year away now. So we're looking at around kind of 18 months, these standards have to be met. A couple that I'll call out here. So appliance upgrades. So when you have a hot water or heating appliance that is gas and it breaks and it can't be repaired, it then needs to be replaced with an efficient electrical version of that. So a really good example here is a gas heater on a wall. If that breaks and it can't be repaired to where it's working efficiently, you actually have to decommission that, and you'd be wanting to put in a split system air conditioner is generally the best solution for that. Now, shower heads. They have to be 4-star as of 2027. Currently, they have to be 3-star. Now, the 3-star ones are actually really easy to see visually, whether they're a 3-star or not, because there's a big difference between the 2-star WELS rating and the 3-star WELS rating. But there's not a lot of visual difference between a lot of 3-star and 4-star shower heads. So what our teams now do is they do quite a primary test, which is called a bucket test. So you actually have the flow of the water on full, you actually measure a certain amount in the bucket over 15 seconds, extrapolate that by 4, and then we know the flow rate of that. And from that and the model and pictures of the model, we can actually determine whether it's a WELS 4-star shower head or not. If you currently have a 3-star shower head in there, you won't need to update it until a new lease starts from the 1st of March 2027. So you do have a little bit of time to do that. We're going to let you know so that you can go through and get that sorted when you need to. Now, this is a big one, energy efficient cooling. So this one we've known has been coming for quite a while. And in fact, if you've got any of the quotes from us here at Taskforce, you would have seen that you would have already been quoted to fit this in as well. So a lot of people have a heater in the main living area. Now that main living area will also now need some energy efficient cooling, so an air conditioner. In the majority of cases, the best way to do this is with a reverse cycle split system air conditioner. So if we're decommissioning a heater for you at the moment, we're already suggesting to put in a split system air conditioner. That means that from 2027, you'll meet both of those standards. Now here's two big ones that are a little bit harder to understand. So insulation and draft proofing. I'm going to try and make this really, really simple for you because these are already written in the regulations, but they're quite difficult to decipher how it works. Now, to put it very simply, with the insulation, if your current property already has insulation in the ceiling and it's installed correctly, regardless of the R factor of that installation, then it will pass. It will be allowed to continue under the minimum standards with that insulation in there. We're going to have to go through a bit of a process as to how we actually look at that and determine that. And we're actually training our teams up on the occupational health and safety side of that at the moment. As an employee, we have to provide a safe working environment for our teams, and our electricians and our gas plumbers have working with heights certification, but a lot of our team that do the rental minimum standards didn't yet have that. So we're going through that training process with them at the moment so that they can safely get into the roof spaces when it's accessible, and then they can take pictures to look at that information. Now, if there is no insulation in there, you are going to need to, at the start of a new lease, put insulation in there. So in between when the old renters go out and your new renters go in, you are going to have to get a team in there that can do that. And they generally do it through the roof space. They don't do it through the house. So if it's a tiled roof, it's really easy. They take a few off and pop it in. Draft proofing is going to be similar. We're looking at a few things in that space at the moment to work out exactly how to do that most efficiently for you. Now, on all of the things that you see here, the government has talked about the potential of putting in some incentives for your owners to help with the cost of these. We haven't seen those yet, but stay tuned. Hopefully we get that very, very shortly. All right, so we had a few questions that were sent in about rental minimum standards. There were more than we probably could have answered today, but again, if you have one specific, please pop it in the chat. If I can't get to it today, we will get back to you and reach out to you to try and answer that. So a few questions that were sent in to us beforehand. When you have a gas cooktop, the electric igniters or the piezo igniters, you might have heard that term as well. Is that a requirement? Now, under the gas safety checks, it's generally not. Because you can light it with a handheld lighter. But for the rental minimum standards, it is a requirement. So that's where those two regulations kind of have to work together, and why you'll see us asking to update it sometimes on the gas check, even though we haven't done a rental minimum standards check. So yes, on a rental minimum standards check, absolutely. If the electronic igniter is not working, that cooktop's not in good working order to the way that it was designed. So it would actually fail in that condition. Now, there are some cooktops that didn't come with an electric igniter. In that case, it's absolutely fine to light them with a regular gas lighter. Please use the long ones. We don't want people using matches and burning the hairs off their knuckles. Okay, cracks in render. How do we determine what is and what isn't safe? So our teams are trained to look at specific cracks in render in particular, and in things like the walls inside the house, and determine whether it's just movement because houses, especially here in Victoria, have a lot of movement, or if it's actually potentially a structural issue. In any case where we see really wide gaps, that's where we know there's potential of structural issue, and the way that the actual crack can move through the wall, that's something we're looking for as well. If we have determined that there is a potential issue there, what we're suggesting is the same as what you get if you're buying a house and you had a building and pest inspector go out there, is we're suggesting that you actually get a builder back there to look into it further. So just because we've failed it, it doesn't mean it 100% will fail. Generally, it just means that you need to look into it a little bit further to find out a bit more information on that particular situation and look into it further. They'll look in behind the wall, they'll use specialist equipment to determine if there is actually an issue there or not. Now, how quickly can we book a rental minimum standards in? Fantastic question. Something that we're getting to very quickly at the moment. So we have availability anywhere from kind of 1 to 2 weeks out. So what we suggest, especially now that it has to be done by the time that you advertise the property, is the moment that you get a renter putting in their notice to vacate, that's when you should action the rental minimum standards. It generally will give us about 4 weeks, and we can get the job done and completed in that time, so that you have all the recommendations that you need to do to get the work done as soon as they move out, so that the time that you go from having them move out to re-advertising the property is as minimal as possible. Now, how long does it take to get the report? This one's quite simple. We'll send the report to you. Generally, you'll get it in the afternoon of the day that we do the actual inspection, but we do say up to 24 hours. The reason for that is sometimes we're taking that information back and we're actually clarifying some of the photos that we've got to the rules, and sometimes our trades will ask questions to make sure it's 100% correct, and then our team will sign that report off and send it through to you. And the last question I've got on RMS, our rental minimum standards, is do you provide quotes on the work that needs to be done? So with our electrical and gas safety checks, absolutely, you'll receive a quote from us on any work that's required. However, with rental minimum standards, it's a little bit different. So no, we don't automatically give you a no obligation quote on the rectification work that's required, because you might need to go to a number of different trades for the particular work. It could be a locksmith, or it could be someone that's doing insulation. So what we'll do is we'll just make the suggestions there, and then we'll leave it for you to go and do that quoting. Now, that being said, if there's something there that fails in the electrical or gas side of things, you can request a quote from us and our team will get that back to you. Okay, now I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a little moment here, because we've got a couple of polls to ask, and then I'm going to go and see some of your questions there. So I have a question for you here, and it's just come up on the screen. You should see that now. So what do you think is the most common area of non-compliance that we would see in a rental minimum standards check? So we've been conducting them now for a number of years. There's a couple of options there. Please select which one you think is the one that has the most amount of fails. Is it mold and dampness? Is it electrical, so the switchboard failing? Is it things like the windows? Or is it structural soundness? Or maybe door locks? We've talked about a few of those now. So, rightio, I'm going to launch that poll now. You should be able to see that. So, pick which one you think it is. Mold and dampness, electrical, windows, structural soundness, or door locks. What's the most common area of non-compliance with rental minimum standard checks that we get here at Taskforce? We've done thousands and thousands of these. I'll give you all a moment to get your votes in there. See quite a few coming through. Okay, so give you 5 more seconds to put your answers in here. Let's have a look at the results. Okay, so the number one that you picked that it would be is mold and dampness. The number 2 one you thought it might be is door locks. Well, surprisingly, it's actually windows. That's right. So windows have to be able to be opened, and when they're opened, they have to remain open. And what we see a lot of the times is that the mechanisms to do that have broken or they've failed. A big one is sash windows, where the weights have broken, so it doesn't hold the window when it opens. The reason that the regulations state that you have to open the window and have it remain open is so that you can exit in the case of an emergency, so a fire or smoke. You need to be able to get out of all of those windows. If a window doesn't open and you go to it in an emergency situation, that's a really, really bad situation. It could cause potential death. The other thing that we see fail a lot on windows is the latches, especially sliding windows. Those latches on the sliding windows, they often break. It's a very simple fix. It's only a couple of dollar part, and you can basically clip them back on and go from there. Or a window winder that's maybe a little bit old and doesn't hold the window and pull it in and out correctly. Now, just a quick note on windows as well, you don't have to have them locked by a key. You just have to have a latch mechanism that once it's closed, it means that you can't get in from the outside. Now, a regular window winder that winds the window out and back in on a chain, once that's in, that's absolutely fine. It doesn't have to have the button to lock it or a key to lock it. It can just be the regular version. You can't actually open it at that time. All right, fantastic. Thank you for being a part of that poll. Rightio, I'm just going to jump back into our final screen here so that you can give us a little bit of feedback. We really appreciate you joining us today, and we love feedback on these sessions. What would you like to see in the next session? So there's a QR code up on your screen there. Please use your mobile phone to grab that. It'll send it directly through to our team in sales and marketing, and we'll respond to any questions that you have that come through on that. We're going to do more of these next year. We're going to try and make them as educational as possible. We've talked to our head electricians about coming in and talking about some of the things that they see and some different areas that they do. Also, Shannon, our gas plumber, we're going to line one up with him early in the new year and talk about when we have to cap gas off and why we have to do it and what the process is that we go through that. But we also want to try and make these as educational as we can for you. So if there's any questions that you come across that you'd like to see, please let us know. So thank you so much for joining us. We hope you've got a little bit out of today. We'll be doing this again in the new year. From the whole team at Taskforce, have a fantastic Christmas, a great holiday season, and a wonderful new year. Stay safe. It's been a fantastic big 2025 for you and for us, and we look forward to being a part of your journey in property management throughout 2026. Thank you for your time.